so thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure.
I think it's really quite unique to have a professional like yourself who is, on the one hand, an economist, but also has a vast experience as a judge. And so I think it's when I say unique, what I mean is that I think it's really rare that we get that unique perspective that combines the experience in those two fields. And the question I have to you therefore is, what are the key three differences between economic and legal analysis approaches?
Well, first one is that economic reasoning is based on a theory. In the field of competition, for example, what is competition? This is defined in the theory. So we have a competition law which doesn't come from legal principles or from values, which are turned into legal principles. So that, I think, is the first difference between the legal and the economic approach. The second one is that the legal approach relies as much as possible on direct evidence, but economic theory is, particularly in the field of competition, is a theory where you cannot make experiments, so therefore you have to have indirect evidence, reasoning that lead you to separate what's legal from what's not legal. The third one may be the fact that the goal of competition law, seen from the economic angle, is to try to deter. And in order to have deterrence, you have to have sanctions, which are extremely important, given the fact that the probability of catching the violators is reasonably small. This sometimes clashes with the notion of proportionality, which is a very fundamental legal principle in sanctioning.
So, of course, you will be a little bit biased when I ask you this, but why do you think economics is essential to competition analysis?
Because I think for the reason which I mentioned, but which I will restate, which is the fact that what is competition? Competition is an economic concept. What is competition law? It is trying to make the world as the theory says it should be. An economic world that works well is a world where you have competitive markets, which means that there's the best possible allocation of resources, and which means that it benefits all the economy. This is a purely economic concept. Even the notion of competition, you look at the EU treaty, there is no definition of what is competition. So you have to go to economic theory to understand what it is all about.
And what would be your three key tips for anybody who represents complex economic evidence or analysis to a judge?
Well, the first one is keep it simple. Keep it simple means that translate the concepts into words or into expressions which will appeal to the intuition of the judge. The second recommendation is try to be as honest as possible, in the sense that I'm sure that lawyers and experts are honest, but try to establish the limits of the reasoning that you propose. Don't try to make believe to the judge that what you say is always true and that there is no margin of error. In fact, the judges will feel much more confident if you explain what are the limits of your data, the limits of your reasoning, or the cases where your reasoning might be wrong. And the third thing I say is use the lawyers to present the economic evidence, because the lawyers know how to talk to judges. They have the right tone, they have the right vocabulary, and they have also, very often they are better known by the judges than the economist. So have the economist explain to the lawyer what the case is about, and then the lawyer explain to the judge.
Sounds like there's a lot of human factor involved in this.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much.